When you know who you are and you're clear about the big impact you're called to make in the earth, you are unstoppable. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Unstoppable You podcast with me, Tish Times. I'm a business and sales coach, and I love teaching professionals how to be more confident, make much more money, and change lives. This podcast features lively discussions with savvy business and life experts and tips for building better business relationships, moving your confidence needle in the right direction, shortening the sales cycle, and most importantly, achieving massive success without compromising your core values. So if you want to know more information about Tish Times Networking and Sales and all the things that we do there, just visit us at tishtimes.com. You can find everything you need right there. I would love to hang out with you more, so make sure that you hit the subscribe button wherever you have found us. If you are finding us on our Facebook page, make sure you hit that like button and enable notifications so you can know when we are presenting a new episode. Today, I am so very excited and in all honesty, honored to have Miss Carol Sankar here. She is an international high-level R&D business advisor, a leadership consultant and real estate investment expert who focuses on professional growth strategies to support established leaders. Ms. Sankar's business and leadership tips have been featured in publications in Europe, Australia, and India. Her international client base are established executives who are seeking new and innovative methods to focus on productivity. She's been featured in numerous magazine articles and conferences, including Forbes, Essence, Entrepreneur.com, TEDx, The Steve Harvey Show, and Working Mother. She is an active real estate investor, an international best-selling author, the founder of the Confidence Factor for Women in Leadership, which is an executive firm for women leaders and one of the leading global negotiation training platforms for women, entitled Increase Your Ask. She does so many amazing things. I am going to, however, ask Ms. Carol Sankar, would you be willing to share with us one thing that is not listed on your bio that you want everybody to know about you?
That I like cereal. I eat cereal 3 times a day without any cereal. Just give me cereal. It could be Fruit Loops. It could be Cocoa Puffs. I'm fanatic.
I love that. Do you know, I used to be a cereal fanatic, but I have a gluten intolerance now. So I don't need cereal.
There's free options. There's Mucilex. There's a lot of great options. I just like dry cereal and no milk.
Interesting. That is a good one. I love that. I've never heard that one yet, and I think it's pretty important to know.
It can be. I mean, it can't be professional all the time. Like I eat food. I like cereal.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, I have been so excited to talk to you. That's why I was like messaging you all over the place. Like, are you coming? Because I want to make sure. Because you, number one, the very first time I heard you speak, it's been probably about 3 or 4 years ago now, maybe even longer. And I was so intrigued by you. I've been following you all this time. I have your book on Audible. I see you on LinkedIn. I read pretty much everything you put out because I love the topic. You know, confidence is a part of my platform as well, probably in a different way, but I love the way that you enable women to be able to embrace confidence. And I want to hear more about that. But before that, I want to hear about your confidence story. Share with us what has shifted for you, and maybe you weren't not confident, but what has made you as confident as you currently are?
Well, being in real estate and as a real estate developer, it's a hyper masculine industry. So it's not one of these things where I walk in a room and there's like 5 women and 5 men. It's usually 9 women and surprise, Carol's walking through the door.
Yeah.
So you actually have to figure out a way to talk yourself into walking through the door and participating in the conversation. So I think the confidence factor started for me at first I was like, okay, I'm intimidated. This was like a decade ago. I'm intimidated by walking in these rooms. Nobody looks like me. Nobody talks my language. I'm going to negotiate huge contracts and people would think I'm the secretary. I must be somebody else's assistant. All of the normative gender things,
Right.
And then it shifted into, okay, I can deal with this now. I'm completely done with the nerves. Like if you do it 1 or 2 times, you kind of know the what you're about to expect. And one day it became very clear to me that there are no other women in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually kind of started out as a joke where a lot of the men in my own team would say, we don't have any women here besides you. And it gets very difficult because you almost have to repeat yourself and prove yourself more than one time. And in building the confidence factor, I didn't think that women had issues with confidence. I thought women had information overload and access information a little bit too much, a little bit differently. Where men have access to specific things, I thought women had access to too many things. We read too many books and too many blogs and too many conferences. Where men go to one conference, they read one book, they go out. Women read 85 books, go to 300 conferences, and still don't get started. So I wanted to know what that repetitive cycle of staying in the I'm studying this mode was all about.
Yeah.
And the confidence factor really was one of those conversations I wanted to have with more senior level women and say, why are you still at the same level? You have more tools than he does, but you're still stagnant. You're still at this level. And instead of you saying, I admire you, my issue was, don't admire me. What's your journey going to look like if you don't get out of your own way with this information overload? You've got 1 million books. You've gone to every conference on this subject. You attended every webinar. You can repeat everyone's words. You've listened to every podcast, every YouTube video. When are you going to get started? And that confidence chime in their head with, I don't think I can, second guessing myself. What if they say? And then trying to find every worst case scenario to say, well, I don't want to take action because what if, and the pre-planning and the pre-judgment. I wanted to have a really organic conversation that kind of cuts out the fluff and say, some of this is your fault because you got too much going on. Like there's something to tell you, ladies, you need more confidence. Another thing to tell you, some of this is your fault. And I'm going to tell you from my story how I know some of this is your fault because I did that. If you see my real library, you'd be shocked that a human being can get in there. I did that.
Yeah.
I traveled like that. I used to do all those things, but you don't get to the next level by studying 100% of the time. And that was what the confidence factor really meant for me to be able to do for other women.
Oh my God, that is so good. You literally echoed a conversation I had with my husband a few years ago. And I was signing up for yet another conference. And he literally stops me and he says, babe, you don't need any more teaching. You have everything you need. You just need to believe that you have it. And that was like light bulb for me for sure. Because I think there's a part of us in many cases that always feels like we're not enough. We don't have enough yet.
Yeah.
I'll be ready when, you can complete the sentence, right? So I appreciate that. And I'm so glad that you shared it with us. I, of course, have heard a lot of your story just based on the information that's available online and the books and things like that. But it's so good to hear you say that because so frequently we think we're the only one and we don't realize that there is an answer to that question of when can I get started or when am I really ready? So thank you for sharing that. I think that often, Carol, we are evolving, right? We start off one way and then we realize that we have to grow in order to achieve the next level of success. Who would you say you've had to become in order to experience the success that you currently enjoy? Do you know what I mean?
I had to become Carol. So there's like 5 different versions of Carol. There is the infancy stage of Carol where she went to school way too long. Like she was, undergrad, graduate, postgraduate, another graduate, certification. Like that's that Carol. Mm-hmm. That Carol was really more of a person who kept thinking she would never be ready enough, right? Yeah. That's the academic Carol. Then she had to get rid of how long are we going to be in school for? Because it's been like 99 years and you have every degree you will ever need. You got to work one of these days.
Yes, right? Yes.
Then there is the workplace Carol. So she left school and said, okay, enough with the school thing. Get into the workplace. And I didn't know how to fit in because by the time I got to the workplace, I started to really struggle with issues of culture and the cultural shift that I had to amass myself in. I am the daughter of a not real estate. My mother is a Wall Street executive who did a lot of auditing on Wall Street. So, she's nobody's little fool. So it's like, how do you live up to a woman who came to this country only 8 years prior and made it to the street that is hardest to make it on? How do you live up to that expectation? So I go in the workplace and I thought my 20-something, I can tell them what to do. And it didn't work, right?
Right.
20, I know everything about life. I'm sure I do. And then the next version was the person who wanted things but did not have the confidence to go get it. So the person I've become was watching every step of Carol grow. And this level of Carol is unapologetic. I'm so proud of this version. This version is the version I've always wanted to be. I'm unapologetic about what I say, where I go, what I say no to, what I say yes to, what I don't answer. People don't know I don't answer 90% of the things that I'm offered because I have options now.
Yeah.
Where if you'd asked me maybe 10 years ago, I'd be on everything you asked me to do. Where now I'm unapologetic. And I love this version because when you get to a stage where you're unapologetic, you almost look at your life in a different way. You were like, now, if I can rewind the time, I would not have done all these things. But I mean, I can't change it. But now I'm in a great space in my life where financially, emotionally, professionally, I'm doing well enough where I can say no to things that don't serve who I want to be and where I think my time should be best spent. And when you get in control in this time, and like in this moment, wherever this is for you, you will start realizing you can say no and not explain yourself.
Yes.
No means no. It's like, Carol, can you come to 5th and 3rd Street? Nope. When the next question is why, I don't have to answer that. I don't owe you an explanation. When you get to that level, that as a woman is the best feeling. It's so liberating. It takes a weight off of you. And growing into this space has probably been the best. I don't know what it is about that 40 thing, but that has been the thing that has been like, wow, I've always wanted to be that person and not apologize for who I have decided that I need to become in order for me to support me the way I want to.
God, I love that answer. Probably more than you'll ever know. I mean, I just love it because I think that for so long, I know for myself personally, the audience, you all definitely can, decide if you resonate with it or not. I believe you probably will. But I know for me, there was always a why. There was always I can't, but it's because I have to.
Right. You don't need an explanation. Because what? It's in and it's a full sentence.
Yes.
Please. Yes.
And even if I wouldn't say the reason, I would get in my car and say, man, you should have said da 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 da. Or, always second guessing that. And it's really a great place to feel like it's enough to just be you and say what you need to say and walk off. So my question to you now is, you said that there are many who will look to you and say, I admire you. I wish I was like you. What do you say to that woman who is saying that right now and doesn't realize that there's a pathway for her to get to that same place where you reside?
I want women to stop admiring others and admire themselves. I think we don't love who we see in the mirror. And when you fall in love with the woman who you see in the mirror, it makes it easier to fall in love with the woman that you admire. Wow. Because you can't be a better version of Carol. Carol is a good version of herself. I love who I see in the mirror, so I have enough love to give someone else. But if you don't love who you see, you will admire people and fall for the trap of the endless cycle of trying to live a life that mirrors someone else that is not authentic to you. My authenticity has a lot to do with what I've had to do over my lifetime and what I've had to achieve and the things I've had to sacrifice to get here. That doesn't mean it's not worth admiring if that's what you think. Yeah. But I admire women who admire themselves, that they feel so comfortable in themselves and who they are and in the skin they're in, that they're unapologetic just the same way I am. When, we can sit at a table and disagree and still continue to eat together. That's a beautiful feeling because that means you're so comfortable in the skin you're in. We can disagree and still hug and say, girl, I love you.
Yes.
It's okay. I want women to stop being in such admiration of others before they admire themselves. And I think that serves a lot of why we have such issues with the disparities with women achieving such high results in leadership, in business, in executive level roles, is because they second guess themselves. They don't sit in the mirror and look at themselves. They sit in the mirror and find fault. They're like, you can do this, you can do this. No, but what if you fall in love with the woman you see that's reflecting back at you, when you look at Tish, you can be like, oh my gosh, now I love you. But let me tell you all the things I don't like about you. And you can accept that because it's okay. Accept it. But at least you love you enough to then go out into the world and serve a bigger purpose. And I think that we have got to do a better job at showing women how to admire the woman in the mirror before they admire the woman on the screen or the woman in the book or the woman on the stage. Like, before you do that, admire you first. That's a huge issue.
I love that. God, I love that. I could probably just literally give, that applause myself, because you said something else in one of your TEDx talks that I wrote down, and I was like, you know what? I love that you have to know your value before you leave the house.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of couples with what you just said. So frequently we can't love ourselves because we don't understand our own value. Do you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree. As a matter of fact, I always say I know my price before I put on my good Spanx. Like, so it's the truth. I don't lie.
I love it.
So I love me some Spanx. I'm human, right?
Yes.
But I know my value before I put them on. It's imperative that, even though as silly as that sounds, there's a reaction that people they laugh at it. And I'm like, no, before I put my real clothes on, there's a value, and I know what that value is long before you call me.
Yeah.
And I know whether I'm going to show up or if I'm not going to show up. And if you get to a point where you know your value enough, you don't ever put your clothes on. And I'm saying this from a very specific place in my life. You don't put your clothes on without you knowing your value. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll discount yourself. And this is like an oxymoron of how I see women who will sacrifice for kind of staying in safety, and women who go towards excellence. So women who will stay towards safety don't mind shopping in discount stores because they've resolved their life into fitting into the circle that says you can't get ahead, you're only making $10 an hour, get used to it, clip the coupons, and live like that. So you lower your standard to fit into the safety zone, right?
Wow.
Woman who knows her value does not leave the house until she knows her value has been executed. For me, I'm on that side. I used to be that woman who would be like, oh, I don't know. You know what? Let me lower my standards. Let me lower the car that I actually aspired to drink. Because I did all of that. I drove the car with 3 wheels and a half a tank of no gas and imaginary, and I tried that. And I realized that's not who I am. When I started loving the woman who I was supposed to be, and you know your value, you don't start the car until you know you have gasoline. You don't leave the house until your value has been fulfilled, whatever that is, whether it's financial, respect. I'm huge a proponent about respect. Somebody sent me an email yesterday, and from the first line, I knew that email will not get responded. She called me babe. That's it. There's nothing more. Here's my respect line. I don't lower my standards for someone to call me babe. I heighten my standards so you can call me Carol, and I don't mind.
Yeah.
But when you've lowered my standard and then I become accustomed to that, what we do is a repetitive cycle as women. We'll respond to it, and then we'll become accustomed to it. And then somebody else calls you that, and you become accustomed to it, and then you never get out of the never-ending cycle of lowering your standards just to get by. I don't believe, in my own experience, I don't believe women have been brought this far to just survive. Coupon cutting and living below your worth should never be acceptable. You should know your value before you put your clothes on. That's how important I think our value scheme is to us as leaders. You may not agree.
Oh, I agree.
Me, it's important. You call me on a good day and you want the good Spanx, gonna cost you. It's not personal.
Right.
Know my value. And once you know your value, you'll understand what that means.
I so absolutely agree. And I love it. I remember it, and it wasn't long ago, Carol. I would love to tell you it was 10 years ago. But I remember talking to someone who wanted to join one of my programs and being in that negative headspace of not understanding my true worth and my true value. And I could feel myself when she said how much it was going to cost, waffling on what it was going to cost, and being willing, before I even answered the question, I was willing
to let it go.
Discount, willing to make the change. And I'll never forget hanging up the phone with that call. And I said, look, I'm not getting up from this desk until I am clear on what is this cost? What am I worth? What is my time worth? And it's so funny because now when I'm talking to someone, it's not a matter of, well, for you it's like, this is what it costs, and that's all there is to it. And I get it. And it took me a long time to get there. So I can appreciate what you're saying so very much. I was that woman for a long time.
No, that's okay. I think we've all been that woman at some point because we feel with a sense of being around the issue of helping others out, and that's fine. But there comes a point when you're going to be broken from that point. Someone is going to try you in a different way. I always say when people ask you, can you adjust the pricing for me? I always say when I go to the Apple store to fix my phone, they don't adjust the pricing.
Nope.
If the phone costs $9 million, it costs $9 million. I have never seen someone say, hey, can you call Mr. Cook for me and see what like, that's not how this works, right?
Right.
When you have a problem with your television, do you go to Best Buy and say, hey, things are a little tough now? Like, why do you do that with me, but you don't do that everywhere else? I go to car dealerships all the time. And every time I go to a car dealership, especially when I'm doing trainings for car dealers, nobody walks on the lot and assume they're going to get a brand new 2099 Range Rover for nothing. They know there's a value. So why do you do it to each other is beyond me. Then they're unapologetic about it, and we have to do the same thing.
I think that there is a piece of it where, you said before, some of it is our fault. I find that, for instance, probably a weird example, but you'll get what I'm saying. I come from years and years ago, was in a domestic violence situation. Been many years since then, and a very, very happy, productive marriage now. But I can always spot an abuser, and I can always spot someone who's being abused. Yeah. And I think on some level, as women, we're looking for that person who we think are going to say yes to us. And we can normally spot that person who's willing to waffle. And it's funny because I know for myself, when I made the decision not to, I get less of that. I won't say nobody ever does it, but I know I get less of that now where people are like, well, I can only pay this much. Can I split it up and all those types of things? What do you think about that?
I think that you're right. People find personalities and personality traits in people. So if someone knows that that's part of your story and that's part of your narrative, they're going to take advantage of that narrative in some way. I think what gets a little shaky with that is that they expect it from people they don't expect it from larger businesses.
That's true.
So they try to take the people that they can get it from, but then they'll go to the larger businesses and don't think that way. And this is why for women, we have to be in a more competitive space in the market. If you built a bigger business, those types of things will never happen. I agree with you that at times we sometimes you almost have to do it. It's a thing that we've been called here to do, and I completely understand. But here's how I see that as an issue. And I'm taking this from a real estate standpoint. I give you $10 off of my property today. That $10 then turns into $120 loss a year.
Wow.
That $120 loss a year over 10 properties, it starts adding up. And at some point, I have negative equity in my properties.
Yikes.
And I'm a landlord. So if this is my income, right? This is how I think of things. If this is my income and I own 10 properties, I gave 10 people $10 off every single month, I can take a negative loss on properties where you have a $10 expenditure in your pocket. At the end of the day, I have to file taxes on a certain day, right? I'm not like everybody else that gets a W-2. I got to file taxes on a certain day. When you go to your accountant, in my industry specifically, and you filter a loss on your profit and loss statement, the first thing they're going to ask you is why.
Yeah.
How do I explain? Well, because she was in a domestic violence situation. I wanted to help.
Right.
There's no thing on the form that says because you're in a situation. It is because did the property burn down? Did it not burn down? Did you fall into hard time? It asks you specific questions. And if you don't have a category that says something specific, how do you justify it?
Yeah.
This is business. It's tangible.
Yeah.
Not personal. And I would love to help the world, but I look at my properties as another reminder. $10, 10 properties, it's $120 a year in losses. Times 10, it adds up. You own 100 properties at $10. It sounds small because it sounds small by one. But if you do that by 10 people, eventually you'll see where the losses will add up. And next thing you know, You're not in business. This is a hobby. You're just breaking even. And there's no little form on that IRS form that says, because I felt like it. It doesn't say because I felt sorry for you.
Yeah.
They want their money for the losses. You've got to pay the losses. This is business, not personal. And if more people understood that from that standpoint, they would not ask for those kinds of discounts that someone else has to pay for. I got to still pay the same amount of taxes for the non-loss as I do have to pay for the loss. So why would I do it?
I have never heard that explained that way, and it's the best explanation I've ever imagined. Oh my God. I will never forget that, ever. And I know those who are listening, I'm sure they feel the same. God, that's good. Yeah, that puts things in perspective in a whole new way. Absolutely. So you talk a lot about your mom and the impact that she has had on you.
Lord. Everybody ask about mom.
Well,
Okay.
I'm actually going to ask you something different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned her in the book, and I've heard you talk about her on many occasions. Who else has had a major impact on you in your development as to who you are?
Wow. There's a woman, and ironically, I was talking about her last night, a lady by the name of Dr. Juanita Richardson. I don't know where to find you, but if you happen to be listening, I think you're in Richmond, Virginia now. Last I checked, but hello. Okay. So, I went to Hofstra University, and there are very few people who look like me at Hofstra University.
Yeah.
And I was struggling in my senior year, right before grad school, on trying to find an elective, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. And somebody said to me, "Go to the education department." And I'm not an education major; I'm a history major. Go to the education department, and there's this lady who she also works with a lot of female students to do independent studies. And this might be a good way for you to not have to take an elective. And anything I had to do to not take a class, I'm in there.
Yes.
So I run over there, and I'm standing in this hallway, and she passes me by. And I didn't know who she was. This is how I'm aging myself. This is prior to online, so all we had was a book, and so you just saw a name, and so this is not online.
Mm-hmm.
And she passed me. I guess we don't know what we look like. She comes outside. She says, "Are you Carol?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Come on in. I'm Dr. Richardson. I came in this office," and she brought me to tears. Because I explained to her what I was going through. I said, I'm getting ready to go to law school, and I'm not sure if I really want to be a lawyer, and I don't know what I want to do. She says, "Well, here's the thing. This is what you're going to start doing. You are going to go out here, and you're going to intern or take a menial job in a law firm. You're going to watch how people interact in that particular setting. Because the thing that you don't want to do is invest $150,000 into your education and not love it for life." Because she said, some people have mortgages in that amount of money. And then you're going to come out of here with that kind of debt, and God spare you don't love what you do. You don't want to get in a space of parking yourself in one thing forever because it's cost so much money. And I ignored her. I'm not doing that. Tell me something else. Like, give me another thing. Like, give me something else. And I went back to her, and she says, "Did you go and intern yet?" I said, "No." She says, "Well, let me give you 5 internships." She sends me to the Brooklyn District Attorney's office. And there is where I met woman number 2. Her name was Selma Jackson. Selma, if you're still alive, if you're still kicking, hello. So, those 2 ladies started gossiping about me, and Selma gave me an internship that changed my natural life. I knew at that moment I didn't want to be an attorney. That was it. Because I got in there and I did exactly what she said. I studied the behaviors of the people who I thought I wanted to be like. Because I thought I wanted to be a lawyer because I saw it on TV. Mm-hmm. This was the first time I'd actually gotten to be around them and learn the jargon and learn how they act. Mm-hmm. And it gave me a reality check that, no, I'm not really going to do this thing. No, it's just not it. And the reason why that made such a big impact on me is because very few people invest in seeing something in other people. Yeah. And she saw something in me to let me know. She didn't say, "Well, come, here's 5 books you can read, come write me a report." She told me, "Go and find yourself, because you don't even know if this is for you. Go find the people who already do this, get around them, and figure out if that's the thing you wanted to be in." Mm. And I ended up writing her this long research thesis where I explained what I learned from watching unhappy people
Wow.
and some of the characteristics and some of the traits that really helped me to define that I didn't want to be a lawyer. And I thanked her in that because had I made that decision, I don't know if I would be here because I'd have
Mm.
probably killed somebody because it wasn't what I wanted to do. But very few people take those kinds of times to be able to figure out, I see something in you. And between her and Selma Jackson, they really worked on making sure that I saw a different version of myself. And even Selma used to tell me, you're not going to make a good lawyer. You're not unhappy like these people. You're not bitter. You're not built to be bitter. So you have
Yeah.
to know this is not going to be for you. And if you're going to do it, you're just doing it for academic purposes, but never go out and practice. And so those are the other two women who shaped my natural life. So, hello,
Wow.
ladies. Y'all are so
Well,
happy.
we're so grateful for those two because I know that you had a big impact on many, many other women. Carol, if you had to sum up your journey in one word, what would it be and why?
Interesting. And why would I say interesting? If you had told me that this is where I'd be in my life, I'd have told you no. I
Mm.
thought I was going to be a little real estate developer. I was going to get some little properties. I was going to be a no name. I was going to stand behind this logo, but I'm not going to be the face of it. I thought I was an introvert and I mislabeled myself for a long time. And
Wow.
so what I find interesting is the thing that I was running from is the thing that called me.
Ah.
I was running from this. I was running from public life. I was running from this. I thought that my calling was all about providing great housing for people, to really define certain stereotypes about women developers. I thought that that was my calling, but my calling was to show more women, not about real estate. Because you notice, I no longer teach real estate because by the time I get ready to teach real estate, women just need the confidence. They don't need the real estate because they're not going to do anything with that part. You need the
Mm.
confidence to get into the market, no matter what it is. It doesn't have to be real estate.
Yeah.
And so if you had told me some years ago that this is where I'd be like, oh, please, you don't know. And I resisted it, and I resisted it for a long time. So where I say it's interesting is I can laugh now because the thing I was trying to avoid, I mean, I couldn't avoid it. Every time, like, okay, stop calling me for advice. Stop calling me for webinars. Stop calling me for the stage. I don't do this. And I would use the word just. And if I can just say this, every
Mm.
woman who says just is putting a period on their progress.
Ooh,
You are not
wow.
just a blank, whatever your blank is. You're
Mhm.
not just a mom. You're not just a woman. You're not just an entrepreneur. Like you gotta stop saying just because that was the period that was holding me back. Oh, I'm just a real estate entrepreneur. No, I'm not. I have so
Mm.
many other things I've accomplished since then. If you had told me I would be a New York Times bestseller, I'd have told you you're lying. You don't know
Wow.
me. I'm just a real estate such and such. And I kept preventing myself from letting those opportunities go. Just those four little words, those four little letters. When I stopped saying that, you would not believe all the things that have happened to me since.
Oh my God. Wow. That is fantastic and amazing. And all of those things wrapped up into just that word, interesting. I love it. So I'm going to go off script for just a second because something else that I've been watching you do has intrigued me. You said that you, instead of streaming and doing all the online things, you've been writing, and writing has changed the way that you're able to show up on larger stages. Would you be willing to share with us why that has been the case, and what would you say about that?
So I watch people get on to Facebook Live and this did that live and everybody else's stream and Instagram Live. Don't get me wrong, I do it if I
Yeah.
have to, or once in a while I plug in. Um, But I will not lie that I see a lot of and I'm just going to put some quotes around it. It's not me, but some
Mm-hmm.
quotes around speakers and
Mm-hmm.
people who need to show up on bigger level stages. There are practice level events where you're always there and you're trying to sell from the back of the room and you're trying to do all these things. And it's not a business, it's a hobby, right?
Yeah.
And I've done that hobby stuff before and it was wonderful while I was in a hobby mindset. And one day I said, the main thing that I've always loved to do is write. And so why am I not using the content that I write to be able to get on stages that really fulfill what I think my purpose is? I am not a practice level girl.
Yeah.
That's just not for me. I'm not trying to sell you the $15 book at the back of the room. Books don't make money. I wish I could scream this to the top of the
Right.
books will make you broke, right? If you get
Yes.
2 or 3 books out in the marketplace just because you're trying to influence the market, I understand. But if
Right.
you're trying to get wealthy off of a book, get ready for some real hardcore poverty. It's in your brain. That's that. How do I turn the stuff that I love to do, which is I love to write stuff. I write stuff down all the time, or I record stuff on my phone that I'm going to come home and write later on. How do I monetize that? Well, if you don't give all of your kittle caboodles away in your head and you write some of the content and you solve a problem, high level stages pay you a lot more money to be a thought leader than sitting at a practice level event talking about yourself and your experiences. So once that started to kind of translate, I was like, why would I ever want to get dressed? Here it goes again, knowing my value. Why
Yes.
would I want to get dressed to go out and volunteer, to speak
Mm.
at an event? Now, I don't mind volunteering. Once in a while, I do. But
Yes.
why would I call myself a volunteer? Dress myself up, go get headshots and do all this other nonsense when I have so much more to offer the world? I should be in limited supply and as reciprocated as an expert. So I use my written content to get booked on high level stages. I've done the Inc. Women's Summit. I've done TEDx. I've done South by Southwest. I've done a lot. And I used to not brag about it, but just recently I'm like, if you check your Rolodex, you've done pretty well. You've done United Way corporate, you've done Verizon corporate. Why would I not use my written content to get to the next level? So I'm not saying streaming doesn't work. I'm saying, let me ask everyone this question. Do you think that the CEO of Forbes is watching your Facebook stream?
Not
Just
at
think
all.
about that for a
Not
second.
at all. Yeah.
They're never going to find it. They're never going to see it. Do you think they're going to interrupt their day to see your stream? Do you think that you're streaming at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? They're going to stop their planning meeting for the next quarter to go watch your stream? No. But if they run across your content, they'll
Yeah.
hold on to it. They'll keep reading it. You get quoted. Like, as a matter of fact, today I'm getting quoted in another Forbes piece. Later on this evening, I'm going to finish writing that. You get quoted because then they see something in you that they've seen you write or something they've heard of you, and they want you to provide more insight. That's how you become a next level expert. All this streaming, I admire women who do that. But let me ask you this question. How many high level men do you see doing that? I'll
Not.
wait.
Yeah.
We're wasting time. So
Yeah.
I just have decided that I'm not going to go according to the tradition where I'm not volunteering. When you know your worth, you know what you do well. If I know that I write well, then I use the content to get booked. Why would I waste the content to just say I'm good at writing? Like, no, monetize it.
Oh my God. So good. I literally could talk to you all day, but I know we can't. So I'm going to ask you to close us out by sharing one, and you've shared lots of them already, but if you could say one thing to the women that are listening to this podcast today and saying, what can I do today that's going to help me to shift something in the next 30 days to make me more unstoppable, more confident because of what you're teaching, that they could do like right now?
Stop assuming. So like today, drop the assumption, whatever that assumption is. I'm not good enough, drop it. I'm not qualified enough, drop it. I haven't done enough. I don't have the book out. Whatever your thing is that you've been saying that you can't do, stop it. The assumption of that you're not good enough, the assumption that you don't have what it takes, the assumption that it takes more time, the assumption that you're not qualified enough, all of those assumptions you've made up. And now because you believe them, you sold them to the world and you're not showing up as the most brilliant part of yourself. And I always say that, I say this to my son a lot. I said, you're denying the world of a gift called you. Whatever your gift is, you're denying the world of that because you're assuming that you're not good enough for whatever it is that you want to do. The one thing I would always say to please stop assuming. You'd be shocked how much you would get accomplished if you ask that question that you think is stupid in your mind. Like, we always want perfection instead of progress. You would not believe that perfection is a result of consistent progress, but we won't start because we assume we're not good enough to make progress. We want it to be perfect from day one, and that's not how this works. Stop assuming, stop talking yourself out of it, and stop hanging out with the 10 broke friends who are helping you to assume that you're never going to be that. When you get rid of your 10 broke friends, I swear, if I can say nothing else, and you get rid of those 10 broke friends, the ones who They never got ahead. They never owned what you want to own. They don't have the access to the resources that are going to take you to the next level. When you get rid of them, because they help you assume that you can't do it either. When you get rid of them, it's going to be lonely, and it's okay. But the moment you stop assuming and the moment you start believing and working toward progress, you will be refilled with new friends who are much better quality. There are people who I have in my life, if I had not dropped the things like the just and the assumptions, there are people who I have in my life now. It's amazing the difference in the quality. And it's because I worked on progress, and the progress leads into small levels of perfections in certain categories that I have in my life. Once you stop assuming and you get rid of the people who are helping you to believe the assumptions you created, I tell you, it's going to open up magical doors, magical financial doors, magical opportunity doors. It's just going to open you up to a whole new reservoir of things you've never experienced. And I'm living proof that once I drop the assumption and once I drop the 10, maybe 12 broke friends in my life. Mm-hmm. And I did one thing specifically. I didn't just drop them. I put them in categories, because some people in my life can only stay there because they fill a certain void that I'm going to have. I'm a hair fanatic. So my hair fanatic friends, they fill my hair fetish. I'm a car fanatic. I have car fanatic friends. They fill my car fetishes, but they can't come with me on the business journey. So we stop in our respective categories, whatever that is. I'm a makeup junkie. I got makeup girls, and we stop in our makeup category, and that's it. Because I need that void, because you can't talk business all day. Right. So fill that void. We get our little nonsense dirt on Twitter. We have our little fun. And then when they say, Carol, how's business? Conversation over. That's it. Yeah. You fill my void. You fill my cup of what I needed at that moment. And now I'm on to something else, because I can't go to that level with you. Once you stop doing that and you stop the assuming and you really get serious about where you want to be, all of this will start really coming into place and formatting itself.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I tell you what, this has been an absolute joy. The information is, I believe, life-changing. I know for myself, I'll listen back to this again for myself, because it's been really, really good. I appreciate your willingness to just share. I never imagined you to be a person that would hold back anyway, but thank you for not holding back with us today.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Would you like, Carol, to share any contact information for any listeners that might want to know how to get in touch with you?
Sure. Everything at Carol Sankar. That's CarolSankar. Website at Carol Sankar, Twitter at Carol Sankar, LinkedIn at Carol Sankar, Facebook at Carol Sankar, everywhere at Carol Sankar. You can always
Perfect. Well, thank you so very much for being with us today.
You're so welcome.
Awesome. Well, you all have gotten a treat. And as I always say, don't sleep on the information. Don't be like those who Carol has mentioned, who will hear the information and do nothing with it, and then wonder a year from now, 5 years from now, why you were in the same place. You have an opportunity to hear, to not assume, and to make real changes in your life. And this is why we're here. I do this podcast because I want women to have real confidence in business so that they can master sales conversations, network like a pro, and make life-changing income. Sometimes just hearing someone else's confidence story can be enough to be a springboard or a blueprint to propel you into your next level. I hope this episode has left you with some answers, but also some questions that will cause you to explore how you can become more unstoppable in your life. We will be here, same place, same time next week. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you can be aware of any new episodes that we have upcoming. And once again, if you found us on the Facebook page, hit the like button and enable notifications so you can always partake in the amazing people that we have here on the Unstoppable You podcast. We will see you next time. Thank you. When you know who you are and you're clear about the big impact you're called to make in the earth, you are unstoppable.